Welcome back to Contacts. We are here with Wendell Look, athletic director and football coach at Iolani School on the island of Oahu. Coach, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So
How's it going?
it's going great. And what I'd like to do is, if you don't mind, talk us through your background as a coach. How did you end up coaching? What was the process of you landing your first job and any subsequent jobs? And I was looking through a newspaper article on you the other day, but I'd rather you share that story instead of me trying to capture the essence of that article.
Okay. Well, again, I've been very fortunate to be where I'm at. I went to school here at Iolani for 12 years. Um, Went away to Boise State for 4 years. Came back, and I was really the right place at the right time. Lucky. Um, my old football coach was still around. He's the athletic director and head football coach still. Every summer I'd come back and work for him. Uh, you know, with the Rugrats running around in summer fun and summer camp. And he asked me what I was going to do since I was done with school. And I said, I don't know yet. I might go back to Boise. They had some offers there and stuff. He goes, no. You're staying here, and you're gonna, you know, work here and coach here and stuff. I said, okay, that sounds good to me. So my first year here at Iolani School, um, I was probably the best paid maintenance man that you could find. He kind of tricked me into what I was doing. He said, hey, you're gonna be teaching here and teaching there. So I was kind of labeled as a full-time sub, and I would coach football with him, and. But actually, what he had me do, I had to go pull weeds. I had to go sweep the gym. I had to go clean up the road, and make sure campus was clean and nice and presentable. And I'm going, what the hell did I get myself into? Shoot, man. I got this college degree, and I'm ready to go. And teach and change young people's lives. And here I am out outside pulling weeds on the football field. So what's going on? But after you sit back and you think about it, you know, what he was doing to me was humbling me, and he was making sure I remembered where I came from, and that he wanted me to know that even the smallest of jobs, mattered, and that's what he did. You know, and we used to see him clean the gym and go sweep the floor and go pull weeds, cut the grass, line the field, and he was reminding me of that this is what this is where you came from. This is what you have to do. The small things matter, the little things matter, and no job is too small for you to do. So that was my start at the Ilani School, and that was 37 years ago, and I never left. And so I've been here for that long. I was an assistant to him for 8 years, and then I took over uh, after that. And so I'm going into my 29th year of being the head coach here at the Ilani School.
Wow. Great story. And it's funny that you mentioned that because as the athletic director now, right, and you picked up the mantle both in football and as the AD, of course you have to be willing to do whatever is required to take care of your facilities, take care of your student athletes, your coaches. And, I was out on the mower for a lot of the summer trying to help out facilities and keep our grounds in good shape because we didn't have students. And it was one of those things where it's like, hey, where can we help? How can we do this? How can we remember, what it takes to even participate in a practice or a game? And I think that's a great foundational piece in the comment that you made there about him humbling you and remembering where you came from. What did you realize when you took over as the head coach after 8 years of being an assistant at your alma mater for your former head coach? that you still needed to figure out? I'm sure you felt like you had it all handled, and then all of a sudden you're sitting in that chair and, deer in the headlights happened. What was that like, and what did you realize you still needed to know?
Yeah, it was. I didn't go into that job thinking, shoot, I knew everything, man, because I definitely didn't. I saw what he had to do, and I was, like I said, I was fortunate to be around people, uh, head coaches that had some experience and that I could watch and learn from. And I was an assistant basketball coach too, and this basketball coach, uh, he brought in a lot of outside people, a lot of college coaches to talk to and stuff. And I remember Lou Carnesecca from St. John's. I think he told me one time, the biggest 12 inches you're gonna take is from that assistant's seat on the bench, and you're gonna move 12 inches to your left, and now you're the head coach. And that's going to be the biggest step you're going to take. And he goes, you're never going to be ready. You might think you'll be ready, but you're never going to be ready. And so, I think gathering pieces from all the people that I've been associated with, I think the biggest thing that I took was being organized, the administrative side of it. Um, the organization of your program to me was critical for me to know and know how to do and know how to prioritize things, of importance.
And I would imagine that as you stepped into the role as the athletic director, whenever that happened, that was also an eye-opening situation. What did you learn there, and how did that organization play into that transition?
Yeah. So I've been, like I said, I've been lucky in how my career has evolved here, and so they kind of slowly broke me into being athletic director here. So as I was still in the PD department teaching, and I was department head, they kind of made me an associate athletic director, and they put me in charge of a couple sports, and one was soccer, wrestling, and stuff. So they slowly broke me in and let me see and learn, what it took to manage another program, to manage other coaches, you
Mhm.
know. Um, and again, I think that's kind of was my strength of learning how to deal with people, how to mentor coaches,
Mhm.
because at that time I've been head coach for maybe what 15 years or whatever it is. So um, I felt that was my strength. I knew how to coach coaches,
Mhm.
but the bigger now picture of organizing an athletic department and instead of just your football team, now that was something that I needed to learn how to do. And so they gave me that opportunity to learn that. I wasn't like a normal guy where you got just bam, you're it, you're the guy, and now you got 24 sports that you got to take care of. It's like, and then coach your own team.
Mhm.
Oh man, I, I don't know. I don't know if I still would be sitting there. And then you visited us. You understood. We have three athletic directors,
Mhm.
and again, for a school to have that many athletic directors, it's a huge help.
Mhm.
You know, and for us to be able to rely on each other to help out each other,
Mhm.
and especially me when I'm coaching. I'm the only one that coaches.
Mhm.
Those guys are just fantastic, and it blends into our philosophy too. So
What would you say, both as a football coach and as an athletic department, is the best thing you do in your program? And by that, I mean, what do you think has the largest ripple effect on your culture as a football program and departmentally? Are there things that you've been able to implement over the years that are keystones to what you guys do?
well, again, like, and I told you this before. Our foundation, our philosophy was already there. And from when I was going to school there till now, the philosophy of the school hasn't changed. It has grown and it has branched out. Now, our philosophy is one team, and it started off as a athletic kind of a model, kind of a spirit of philosophy, if you want to say. And over the years, it has kind of grown to be our school model. And so, it wasn't like I had to come in there or any athletic director or coach had to come in there and establish, a philosophy. It was built in there for us.
Mhm.
And basically, it's our job to keep perpetuating that philosophy and not let it change.
Mhm.
And it has been very, it has been easy, but yet been difficult in these times.
Mhm.
Because for us, our philosophy is this: is that no one person is more important than another.
Mhm.
So my starting quarterback takes out the water just as much as the third string, center.
Mhm.
You know, he picks up equipment. So there's no privilege of being the star so much. We don't have stars here.
Mhm.
You're part of a team,
Mhm.
and regardless if you're the starter or the third string guy, your contribution and importance to the team is the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's what uh, makes us who we are.
Mhm.
Uh, but in this time, in society and a lot of this me and I, uh, it is, and especially with the internet now, and they get to see all kind of different um, people and peers how they're treated. Um, it's a little difficult to keep that humbleness about us, and it takes a little bit more work right now, and but I think our kids are the best ones to sell it, and they believe in it, and they do, and they do. I mean, there's a few here and there, but you gotta kind of polish them up a little bit. But for the most part, our kids truly believe in it, and they truly care about their team
Mhm.
rather than themselves. And for me, that has been my kind of mission and responsibility.
Mhm.
I have stayed here for 37 years. It's something that was passed on to me, and hopefully I've passed it on to this next generation. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what sports are about, right? Learning to be part of something bigger than yourself and learning to play your role, whatever that might be, and contribute to the greater good rather than potentially contaminating, your situation. And I think the fact that you can point to that both as a team and as a program as a mission and vision of the school is really neat, really cool that that's transcended that barrier. Um, as the athletic director, you get an opportunity to watch other teams more than your average coach. Are there things that you've been able to steal from other coaches and implement as a football coaches that maybe you never thought possible before, but now as you're watching your water polo team practice and you're like, oh wow, this is really good, I'm going to use that. Have you come across those things over your 37 years? And if so, could you share any of them with our listeners?
Wow. Yeah. That's a great question. That was one of the things how um, I kind of built my knowledge because we're here on an island.
Mhm.
We're exposed to very limited resources in terms of professional and college. We don't have a professional team here, whether it's football, baseball, whatever. You know, we have the University of Hawaii football. That's it. So, in order for us to expand our knowledge, both in football, athletically, uh, we had to go to the mainland. And so, when I became head coach, that was one of the first things we did was make contact with college coaches and ask if we could come and observe them.
Mhm.
And we picked, I picked college very similar to our school.
Mhm.
Our school is one of the top academic schools, not only in the state, I think in the nation.
Mhm.
So one of the first places I went was to Northwestern University because they are very similar to us. They don't get the blue chip kid, back then, you know, they're highly academic. So, I called up, I think it was Coach Walker back then, the
Mhm.
late Randy Walker,
Mhm.
and he had just won the Rose Bowl with that team that he had. And so I figured out, these guys can compete and win the Rose Bowl. Shoot, they must be doing something right. So
Mhm.
we went and visited him, and we spent about 4 or 5 days with them and learned their system and learned how they did it with these academic kids.
Mhm.
And at that time, he was one of the few teams that were running no huddle,
Mhm.
shotgun.
Mhm.
He had a run game out of shotgun,
Mhm.
and he was his tempo offense.
Mhm.
It was spread, and so that gave us an advantage here in
Mhm.
Hawaii because it hasn't been, it was unknown yet.
Right.
So those are the kind of things that we've done uh, to try and enhance our knowledge and our program.
Mhm.
Um, like I said, I like to watch all kind of sports, and
Right.
I was fortunate. My daughter played water polo for Santa Clara,
Mhm.
and so I got to see a lot of water polo and how they did things. They played against some of the top programs, Stanford, UCLA, and see how they, this kind of how they used their talents,
Mhm.
and they had talent, believe me. You look at those Stanford and UCLA girls, and it's like, whoa, but they had great coaches there, and what I took from all of them is that they're great organizers. You know, I always going to harp back on organization and administrative skills. You
Mhm.
you got to be organized. You got to know what you're doing. You can't just go out there and go to practice and figure it out on the fly. You got to be organized in what you're doing. And so, those are the things that I took from the programs that I've seen and visited. That's kind of the most important thing. Yeah.
Well, I think the story of calling Northwestern and going out to see them is something that, especially young coaches, they don't do because the insecurity of, well, they're not going to answer, they're not going to bother to take their time. But as you experienced and I've experienced throughout my career, is people want to help, and the only thing getting in the way is sometimes our unwillingness to ask. And so I think that's such a good story that shares the idea of, rolling the dice and taking a risk and trying to go do something, and it's really paid off for you.
Yeah. Coming from Hawaii, sometimes that helps.
Mhm.
I feel sorry for you that you traveled 5,000 miles to come and see them. They feel kind of honored and privileged, and so they take a little bit more time to answer your questions and kind of talk story with you. So they were great. They were awesome, man, over there, and we that's what started it all for us.
Good. So I'm curious, and you can answer this however you want, but being on an island and being in, let's call it a smaller state, and an area where you don't have a ton of resources in theory to reach out to as a professional or college programs, but how do you then network to maintain new ideas, and what have you been able to develop amongst your peers and your colleagues, and maybe even potential rivals, to continue to push the envelope a little bit and find new things to do?
Yeah, that's great question for us because like you said, yeah, we're not like you in California. Like you said, you can drive 12 hours and still be in state, and so you could drive to this college and this college and this college in a heartbeat. So yeah, we don't have the necessary immediate resources here, uh, but I think the way of the world now, the internet and all that, and things are instant now. I mean, you know, you can steal stuff from people by watching highlights now,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what you're doing here is a great example of that. We're you're gathering information and banking information for people to come and learn from. And again, the internet has been wonderful for us here
Mm-hmm.
in Hawaii to gather information from. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, we're we're a pretty tight knit uh, group of football coaches here on the island.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're rivals on the field, but off the field, the culture of here of helping each other, you know, and sharing things, you know. I think we're more willing to do that here than any other place,
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of in our nature is to help people,
Mm-hmm.
And if someone asks me, how do you do this, you know, I'd be more than happy to share it with them.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that to my older peers, before when I was a younger coach. I'd call up Cal Lee at St. Louis and say, you know, how do you run this defense and stuff, and you got to do this,
Well,
give
I
them
think that's the
beverages and some poo poos here, and then
yeah.
the more the night goes on, the more information he divulges, so.
Yep. And the more that people are willing to put themselves out there and take a risk. I mean, I just walked into your office off the street and knocked on the door when I was there, and then we spent 3 hours together and have kept up our relationship. And it was total just, hey, I'm a new AD and I'm here, and my daughter's playing in a volleyball tournament. You got time to chop it up? And you were super gracious with your time, and we were able to talk through some things. And now here we are. What would you say? If 37 years now you've been coaching the football team there and working at the school, if you could point to a few things, and it can be conceptual rather than detailed, but how has your approach to coaching changed throughout that time?
Uh, I don't think I've changed too much. I think my core values uh, are still the same from day one. You know, uh, Maybe how I go about presenting them and
Mm-hmm.
teaching them. And every coach has heard this. If you've been around long enough, is that, hey, coach, you're getting soft, man. Labor Day used to be Labor Day for us, and now you're out there in shorts and no helmet, and you're doing a walkthrough. What's wrong with you? We used to be in full pads and banging our heads off on Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
I think, once you established that, hard nosed discipline, whatever, you want to be noted for, I think at the first couple of years, you're got the foot on the gas pedal, and you're going hardcore on it, and then, as you get along, the kids know who you are, and what you expect from them, then, you kind of ease off on the gas pedal, but
Mm-hmm.
um, the core values have never changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that consistency in myself,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it has, again, it's proven to be why I've been here so long. I think
Mm-hmm.
I haven't changed my values.
Right.
People know who I am, what they're gonna get, what they expect, what I expect. So, um, I think that will never. Well, I think if when it does change, then it's time for me to say
Right.
bye.
Right. Well, how do you get, as a young coach, to your point of when you're getting started and you're establishing culture and you're doing certain things, you got your foot on the gas pedal, and then you can ease off a little bit because you've now established those things and expectations. I don't want that to come off as sounding like you're not coaching as hard or you're not doing those things, but your approach changes a little bit. How can you help younger coaches get to that point quicker? Because often there's so much frustration and time spent banging your head against the wall when you think you're making progress. And those of us that are a little bit older and have established ourselves and adjusted our approach over the years, even though we're true to our core values, how do you get to the cheat code a little quicker?
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things that I've tried to uh, teach these young kids, and especially young coaches. And I'll take the position of being an athletic director now.
Mhm.
You know, I tell these young guys, hey, success ain't gonna come overnight.
Mhm.
You know, it takes time. It takes time for you to establish your program, to build your program. And too many of these young guys coming in now want success now.
Mhm.
I said, bro, man, you gotta pay your dues, man. I mean, success does not come easy, and it takes work, and you have to let it grow. You have to nurture it. It has to grow.
Mhm.
And I think that's the biggest misconception uh, from young coaches now, is that they want success now. And again, I don't blame them. You know, but here where I'm at again, winning is important, but it's not going to get you fired if you don't. As long as you're doing it the right way, as long as the kids are having a great experience playing for you, they're learning how to do things the right way. They're learning how to compete. They're learning how to work hard. Learning how to play fair. All those things. Then shoot, you can go. I've gone 0 and whatever a couple times.
Mhm.
And I never worried about getting fired.
Right.
You know, because I believed in what I was doing. I believed in what I was teaching them was the right things.
Right.
Now, so um,
And I think that's the model of education-based athletics, right? In high school and middle school in general, where we're trying to teach life lessons. Winning is a byproduct of the process of learning to do things the right way. And sometimes you just don't have the horses, and sometimes you do. But if you stay true to your core values, you're putting the kid at the center of the equation. You understand that this is a vehicle to teach leadership and being part of a team, that you're going to find success in whatever way success is possible to attain. if
yeah,
if we were able to get in a time machine and go back to when you got back from Boise State and you were around campus doing whatever you were asked to do, but you knew that on this path you were going to be here for a long time, what advice would you have for your younger self at that time? Because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't change a whole lot of things because you've had this very unique experience that your past has been a big part of this. But what advice would you give yourself to help you navigate it now that you have these years of experience?
you know, you sent me that question, and I kind of thought hard about it, and I think the one thing, I had a friend of mine that we started teaching here at the same time, but he was like 8 years older than I was. He was a graduate from here too.
Mhm.
Was a kicker, played water polo and stuff, but he was a history teacher, and he's into philosophy and all that kind of stuff, and he always used to tell me, you know, enjoy the now,
Yeah.
you know, and I wish I'd listened to him a little better and harder back when we were first starting out. Um, if I could go back, I would enjoy every day a little bit more. Back when you're young and stuff, you're in such a mode of, okay, what I got to do next?
Mhm.
How am I going to get ahead? How am I going to prepare for this? You know, so you're always trying to stay one, two, three, four steps ahead instead of this taking some time to enjoy the successes you had, enjoy the and learn from the things that went wrong, the failures that you had,
Yeah.
and but you always are trying to stay ahead of things, and you know, I you know I missed a lot of my kids' younger years.
Mhm.
Thank God I have a great wife that you know took care of my kids and raised she raised them from the younger times and I've missed a lot of swim meets. I missed a lot of soccer games and stuff,
Mhm.
and you look back on it and you think, shoot, did I have to miss that?
Right.
And so, yeah, be kind of enjoy it now.
Yeah, I think that is really good advice, especially for how most of us are wired when we're young and continuing to run on that treadmill, and things come up that we think are these really big seminal moments in our lives and in our team's lives, and the big picture of the world, they're not. And how do you just enjoy the moment and realize that there are other things that you really need to give consideration to? I really think that's great advice. As we've been talking, I've been curious, and because I have ridiculously terrible attention span, all these things bouncing around in my head. But I'm really curious if there are cultural components of coaching in Hawaii that are things that can be shared with others, right? That we may not think about as mainlanders. I know when we go there, right, the pace of life is a little bit slower. It's sometimes the time isn't when you think you're going to start. But what are some of the things that you can offer? Maybe you don't know because you've been there for the majority of your life. But I definitely felt the welcoming when I was there with you, and all the other places that I stopped. But are there things that you could point to that are cultural within athletics in the islands that you think the world could benefit from?
Yeah, again, it's like I said earlier. Once you're on the field, man, you're competing
Hmm.
and you're getting after it. But once you leave the field, you know, our kids, like you said, the island's so small. Everybody knows everybody.
Hmm.
Everybody's related to each other somehow.
Hmm.
I mean, it might be your fifth, sixth, distant cousin or whatever, but you're related somehow. So you all know each other, and so uh, I think that feeling of family, they call it ohana here, um, of caring about one another, you know, uh, is special. You know, they talk about the low spirit, and I think you ask how could the world become a better place. I think if more people had the low spirit, this world would be a whole lot different.
Hmm.
Um, my roommate in college in Boise is the athletic director at Radford, and again, he's in the public school system. I'm in a private school system. We were able to compete against each other. Uh, not only in football but in baseball and other sports. Uh, and there's that competitive edge to us where we need to beat these guys. And but afterwards, hey, it's all good, man. So I think to have that competitive spirit, but still have that care and uh, feeling for your opponent, and you're because like I said, they're probably related to you and probably part of your family somehow. So
Yeah, and I think that's really important to hear, especially as a young coach, because you're often looking across the bench or across the field or down the pool deck, whatever sport you happen to be coaching, and that person's the enemy, and you can't have a relationship with that person, or that makes you weak or soft. And as I've aged and gotten more mature as a coach, I think I value those relationships with the people we're competing against even more, and I actively seek to develop them because they're your compatriots, right? It's like they're there to help you grow the sport, and if you don't work together, then you're ultimately hurting those kids. So very, very often after games, we're on the horn together, or we're going out to grab something to eat and drop the kids off, and you go back out and hang out with the coaches that you guys just played, win, lose, or draw. And I really like that story. I appreciate that story. When you mentioned that you came to the mainland in order to grow your game and to think about other ways in which you have had to think about professional development, what do you have? And this is answer this however you want, but I'm just thinking, are there things that you have in your toolbox at this point, Coach, that are your go-tos, that are pieces of advice that you dole out more often than you realize? That if they were to make a video of you on campus, that here are the 10 things that Coach Look's saying all the time. And I asked that because my buddy on campus just made this video where he was basically just regurgitating things I said all the time, and it was this kind of joke. But those are sometimes, I think, our best sound bites that we have to offer the world. And I'm curious what those have been for you. If there are a couple of those that you're constantly giving out to try to, give some value to people.
I think, shoot, what I have built our program on, and my reputation on is, hey, rocket science, man. Shit. Everybody knows it. Is this a matter of being able to execute it or live it every day, not only when, the camera's on you or people around you, I mean, we've all told our kids, right? I mean, hey, integrity, you go out there and I tell you to go run a lap, and because I ain't out there, you gonna freaking cut across the damn field. Hell, that's not what, I want to in my players. So that has to come from you too. And it has to come from you every day. So when I mentioned being consistent in my values, I think, and that's part of why I've been here so long. I think that's kind of the important thing. I think you go around, and if we ran around that day in the golf cart, and we stopped and talked to a player, and you asked one of my players, what does Coach Look tell you every freaking day, and I think you get a consistent answer about, oh, we got to be disciplined. We can't make mistakes. Discipline not only on the field but in the classroom. Right. Control what you can control. Those. There's certain things, that I've told them consistently, and they imitate me a lot of, when we're around, and they kind of make fun of it, but when they do that, I know they're listening, and right. They got the message.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
that's awesome. All right, well, Coach, this has been great. I appreciate you taking the time. It's getting a little bit late here. I know you're 3 hours behind us, so you still got sunlight, but it's been really fun, and thanks for being on.
Yeah, I appreciate, you having me, and, anytime I can help out our profession and our young guys, because, I'm on the other end of the spectrum now, it's about that time, but, anytime I can help out, this give me a ring, man.
Absolutely. All right. Looking forward to talking to you soon.
All right, man.